Hello, students of class 7. We are now on the third and the last part of the story, The Cop and the Anthem. And here you see Soapy. Soapy, a homeless man. He is looking for a warm place in winter. And where is this warm place that he plans to go to? That warm place is the prison on Blackwell's Island. Now he has tried so many things to go to prison, but nobody is arresting him. He went to a grand restaurant to eat food. They threw him out. He went to another restaurant and he was not accepted. Then he broke a window, and here he's waiting for the policeman to arrest him. But the cop did not arrest him because he thought that people who throw stones at windows, when they break glass windows, they run away. And here Soapy is just standing there and smiling, and he wants to be arrested. So he thought maybe he is out of his mind. So now here in the cop doesn't arrest him. And there was a man who was running on the other side, on far end of the street, and the policeman ran after him. And now Soapy is feeling very sick at heart, and very slowly he walked away. He had now failed 2 times. Across the street was another restaurant, and when he went to the other restaurant, uh, the food was not really good, but he went there and he ate dinner, and he said, now get busy, call a cop. And the waiters, they threw the Soapy out, and he fell on his left ear, and he hurt his ear too. And yet he's standing there now. He's feeling very sad now that nobody is going to send him to prison, and that prison now seemed to him like a happy dream. The island seemed so far away. Now let's go to the last paragraph here. A cop who was standing near laughed and walked away. So a policeman just looked at him and he laughed and he walked away. Soapy started moving again. When he stopped, he was near several theaters. In this part of the city, streets are brighter and hearts are more joyful than in other parts. Now, because theaters are there and people come here to enjoy themselves, so they are in a very joyful mood. So, this is a very joyful part of the city. Women and men in rich warm coats moved happily in the winter air. Now, because the winter is very cold, the air is very cold, yet they are moving happily because they have warm clothes. A sudden fear caught Soapy. No cop was going to arrest him. Now he was so fearful. No policeman is going to arrest me. That's what he's thinking. See, he was thrown out by 2 waiters, thrown out of the restaurant where he had food. Then he came to another cop standing in front of a big theater. He thought of something else to try. Now he thought, now I'm going to try something. He began to shout as if he had too much to drink. Now he wanted to show the cop, the policeman, that he was a drunk man, and he had been drinking too much. His voice was as loud as he could make it. He danced and he cried out. So now he started making a big noise. He started dancing and he started singing out very loudly and talking very loudly. And the cop turned his back to Soapy and said to a man standing near him, "It's one of these college boys. He won't hurt anything. We have orders to let them shout." Now the policeman is not arresting him at all, because he says he thought that he's a college boy, one of the college boys, and that they are just drunk and that they're just they are not harmful. They won't harm anybody. So he said that he had received orders that they were not supposed to arrest young students. Soapy was quiet. Was no cop going to touch him? He began to think of the island as if it were as far away as a star. So as far as the stars are, so that island seemed to him so far. He pulled his thin coat around him. The wind was very cold. Then he saw a man in a shop buying a newspaper. The man's umbrella stood beside the door. Soapy stepped inside the shop, took the umbrella, and walked slowly away. Now he's not running away with the umbrella. He's showing that he is stealing his umbrella. The man who was buying the newspaper. The man followed him quickly. Now the man followed him. "My umbrella," he said. "Oh," he said, "is it you?" Sorry, I lost the page. Yes. So he is now going to get the man. The man is following him, and he says, "Now, hey, you've taken my umbrella." He said, "Oh, is it?" He says, "Why don't you call a cop?" He said, "Why don't you call the policeman? I took it, your umbrella. Why don't you call a cop? There's one standing at the corner." He says, "See, there's one policeman standing at the corner." The man walked more slowly. Soapy did the same, but he had a feeling that he was going to fail again. The cop looked at the two men. Now, the man was walking very slowly, and Soapy also started walking very slowly, as if to show that he is not going to run, by even after stealing the umbrella. And then the cop looked at them. "I," said the umbrella man, "that is, you know how these things happen. If that's your umbrella, I'm very sorry. I found it this morning in a restaurant. If you say it's yours, I hope you'll..." So he says, the man is saying, "I'm sorry if it is your umbrella. I found it in a restaurant in the morning. And if you say it is your umbrella, then I hope that you..." Then he says, "It's mine." Soapy cried Soapy with anger in his voice. The umbrella man hurried away. Now, actually, the umbrella, that man had also, it was not his umbrella. He had taken someone's umbrella, and when he saw the policeman, he just hurried away. He ran away. The cop helped a lady across the street. Soapy walked east. Now nobody was going to arrest him. He threw the umbrella as far as he could throw it. He talked to himself about cops and what he thought of them. Now, he was not really very happy with the policemen, and he's talking to himself how bad those policemen were. They were not doing their duty, etc., etc. Because he wished to be arrested, they seemed to believe he was like a king who could do no wrong. Now he's thinking that because he wants to be arrested, they think that he is a king and that he cannot do anything wrong. At last, Soapy came to one of the quiet streets on the side of the city. He turned there and began to walk south towards Madison Square. Now he has come back to Madison Square. He was going home, although home was only a seat in a park. No, he was going home. And what was his home? It was only a seat in the park. But at a very quiet corner, Soapy stopped. Here was his old childhood home. Through one window he could see a soft light shining. Now he came to the place where his home used to be, his real home used to be. So through the window he could see there was a soft light. That had been his living room, where he had spent many happy, peaceful moments. Sweet music came to Soapy's ears and seemed to hold him there, and he could hear the sweet music coming out of that window from the house he used to live in when he was a young boy. The moon was above, peaceful and bright. There were few people passing. He could hear birds high above him. It was so quiet that he could even hear the birds flying very high above him. And the music that came from the room held Soapy there, for he had known it well long ago. The music that came out of the house where he had lived as a little boy, that music almost like held him captive. He could not move at all. And because he knew that music, he knew that song it seemed so long ago. In those days his life contained such things as mothers and flowers and high hopes and friends and clean thoughts and clean clothes. Those days seemed very far away. That life seemed like another life to him, because in that kind of a life, he had mother, he had beautiful flowers, his house was decorated, his mother's touch was there in his life. He had high hopes for his future, he had friends, and then he had clean thoughts. He was a good person in his heart. and he even had clean clothes. He lived a wonderful life during those days. There was a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. Suddenly, there was a change came into his heart. There was a change in his soul. He saw with sick fear how he had fallen. Suddenly he realized, he felt so sick in his heart, how he had fallen, how had he become a homeless man. And he had this fear in his heart, oh, what has he become now? What have I become now? He saw his worthless days, his wrong desires, his dead hopes, the lost power of his mind. He suddenly realized that he had wasted his days, his life, and his wrong desire, the wrong things that he wanted in life, and the dead hopes, that there was nothing, no hope for his life. And he had lost the power of his mind, the power of thinking what is right and wrong. He had lost all that. He was suddenly feeling so sick in his heart. And also in a moment, his heart answered this change in his soul. And it was in that moment that his heart answered this change in his soul. He would fight to change his life. Now he has made up his mind. He is determined. I am going to change my life. He would pull himself up out of the mud. He will rise up, he's thinking, from the ground. He would make a man of himself again. He's thinking, I'm going to make a man of myself again. I will become a proper human being. He is thinking like that now. There was time. He was young enough. Now he's thinking, I'm young enough. There is enough time for me to change my life now. He would find his old purpose in life and follow it. He's thinking, now I'm going to change my life. I'm going to find a real purpose in life and I will follow that purpose. That sweet music had changed him. What had changed him? The sweet music that brought him to reality, that made him realize what his life used to be and what now he has become. That sweet music changed him. Tomorrow he would find work. Now he has made up his mind. I'm going to find work tomorrow. I'm going to work. A man had once offered him a job. He would find that man tomorrow. Now when he was homeless, a kind man had offered him a job, but he had become so lazy he did not want to work, that he's now made up his mind, I'm going to find that man, I'm going to find work tomorrow. He would be somebody in the world. I'm going to make myself a somebody, a man who people will recognize. He would. Now he is now determined. Soapy felt a hand on his arm. Somebody had touched his arm. He looked quickly around into the broad face of a cop. Now there was a policeman standing there. What are you doing hanging around here? Asked the cop. Nothing, said Soapy. You think I believe that? Said the cop. Full of his new strength, Soapy began to argue. Now he had found new strength, a purpose in life. He started to argue with the policeman. And it is not wise to argue with a New York cop. Now the writer is saying it is very foolish to argue with a policeman in New York. Come along, said the cop. 3 months prison on Blackwell's Island, said the judge to Soapy next morning. This is O. Henry who has written that, and he says he was now that he had made up his mind to change his life, now the policeman had arrested him and now he had gone to prison. All the while when he was in the mud, when he had no hopes, when he just wanted to remain like that in his life, he wanted to remain a homeless man, he wanted to go to prison on purpose. Then the cops would not arrest him when he was, and now that he was telling the truth, the cops would not believe him. Now that he had had a change of heart, the cops were not believing him. That's why this is the irony of life. When you really want to do something, nobody believes you. The writer has given you a thought that it is good to do things on time. It is good to make something of yourself, and when sometimes it is too late, and when sometimes life does not go according to how you want it to go. So we must do things while there is still time, while we are to, like it, as now you are students, you're supposed to study and then find your purpose in life. Soapy found his purpose very late, and it was now too late that nobody would believe him that he really wanted to change himself. And so that is why the writer has named this story as the Cop and the Anthem. What is the anthem? The anthem is the music that came out of the house where he used to live as a little boy. That anthem was that grand song. Anthem is actually church music, and that church music that came cleansed his heart, cleansed his mind. And now that he had a clean heart, the cleansing of heart, cleansing of mind, he was now going to be a good man. But then the cops would not believe him, and he had all the while trying to go to prison. But now that he had